The file is already open. You never saw them place it on the table, never heard the lock disengage, yet the weight of it presses against the room like a storm gathering at the horizon. Black ink sprawled across pale pages, your name marked in symbols you don't recognize, dates circled in red, and beneath every line silence. It's not your words they've recorded, not the things you shouted into the noise of daily life. It's the pauses, the hesitations, the moments you stopped yourself from speaking. They have been cataloging your restraint as if it were evidence of a crime too subtle to name. You've been walking among the blind, moving like a shadow among flames, and still, they noticed. Not the crowd, not the people who laugh at your quiet distance, but the hidden watchers whose eyes see beyond what is spoken. They caught the way you look at exits before entrances, the way your body angles slightly away from threats, the way your stillness unsettles those who crave attention. They called it intelligence, but not the ordinary kind. A kind that erodes masks, a kind that carves through lies without drawing a blade. Every ordinary moment you lived was extraordinary to them. A delay in your answer was written as precision timing, a half smile interpreted as control of perception. Your refusal to be pulled into chaos was annotated as psychological dominance. You didn't ask to be studied, but you were. Every step in your life has been rewritten inside this file, not as a biography, but as a manual. They are not describing who you are. They are outlining how you move, how you think, how you disarm without raising a hand. It should terrify you that someone was always watching. And yet, there's something else beneath the fear of vindication. Because deep down, you've always known you were moving differently, operating by rules no one else seemed to grasp. When they laughed at your silence, you knew it was a weapon. When they mocked your distance, you knew it was survival. Now you see proof in ink and paper. The very traits that once isolated you are now the reasons powerful hands reach for your name. In that dimly lit chamber, the agents do not speak in full sentences. They exchange fragments, coded remarks, as if they fear even the walls might learn from you. One points to a page, control under pressure. Another whispers, strategic dissociation. The words float in the air like ancient curses, confirming what you already suspected. You have never been like them, and you never will be. This is the opening move of a game you didn't agree to play, but cannot walk away from. The file is open, your existence dissected, your silence weaponized. And though you haven't said a word, your voice is already echoing through corridors you've never stepped inside. They believe they've discovered you. But the truth is far heavier. You've been discovered because you were always meant to be. You enter a room and no one notices, not at first. Their eyes are pulled toward louder voices, brighter gestures, faces that demand to be seen. You stay still, silent, almost invisible. But invisibility is not weakness, it is power concealed. Like the shadow that stretches longer than the body that casts it, you occupy space without revealing your weight. They mistake absence of noise for absence of force. They are wrong. Your silence bends the atmosphere. It unsettles, though they cannot explain why. You have mastered the art of moving without moving. A glance held half a second longer. A pause where others would rush to fill the void. A stillness so heavy it presses into their subconscious. They wonder if you know something they don't. And the truth is you do. You understand that people fear emptiness more than aggression. They scramble to interpret your quiet, pouring meaning into your silence until their own minds betray them. They speak too quickly. They reveal too much. They fracture under the weight of what they imagine you are thinking. There was a time when this felt like weakness. You watched others dominate conversations with laughter, sharp opinions, thunderous energy. You believed you were small or misplaced, condemned to the shadows. But shadows are not condemned, they are sanctuaries. While they performed, you observed. While they boasted, you calculated. While they shouted into the void, you listened to the silence between their words, the cracks in their certainty, the fractures in their armor. You realized then that stillness was not absence, but strategy. A weapon older than language itself. The ancient ones understood this. In temples, silence was sacred because it forced men to face themselves. In war, stillness before the charge was the most unbearable tension. The predator that moves too fast is spotted. The predator that waits is feared. You became that predator, cloaked in patience, wrapped in restraint. Every choice to hold back became another blade tucked beneath your cloak. Every unspoken thought became a weapon sharpened by their assumptions. And now, when you move, the world reacts. Not because your gestures are grand, but because they are rare. Every shift of your eyes feels intentional. Every word lands like a stone dropped into water, rippling outward, impossible to ignore. They cannot predict you because you refuse to perform. You remain the anomaly, the silent fracture in their pattern recognition. That is why they lean toward you without realizing it, drawn to the gravity of your restraint. You do not fight chaos with chaos. You let it unravel itself while you wait in the stillness beyond it. Your silence is not emptiness. It is a mirror forcing others to confront their own noise. And in that reflection, they break. You remain whole. This is how you move without moving. This is how you dominate without lifting a hand. This is why they are watching. They have been watching you longer than you realize. Somewhere in a room without windows, the air hums with machines cataloging your smallest gestures. A camera angle, a pause in your breathing, the way your eyes linger half a second longer than most. What others dismiss as hesitation, they interpret as calculation. You are not lost in thought. You are choosing the battlefield. Every sigh, every silence, every shift in posture has become a data point in a growing archive labeled with your name. Agents lean forward in the dim glow of monitors, replaying the same moments over and over. A simple nod, slowed to half speed, becomes evidence of strategy. A delayed response, replayed in silence, transforms into a coded hesitation. They whisper to one another, not about what you said, but what you didn't. They sense something you've never confessed aloud, that you've always known the power of absence, the violence contained in restraint. They study you like a cryptic manuscript, a language half forgotten yet still dangerous enough to shatter fragile minds. The watchers call it an anomaly, but you know it as survival. Years of being underestimated have taught you the art of folding into shadows, of being overlooked until it is too late. They see in you what others dismissed, the quiet child who observed patterns while others screamed for attention, the student who measured silence against noise, the stranger who could dismantle confidence with nothing more than a raised eyebrow. To them, this is not coincidence. It is weaponry sharpened across years of betrayal and doubt. And so they watch, not because you are loud, but because you are too quiet in the places where others would beg to be heard. Power in stillness, threat in subtlety. They know how dangerous it is to encounter someone who refuses to be predictable. Your indifference unsettles them. Your restraint infects them with unease. They see a mirror held up to their own excesses, and mirrors can be fatal when they reveal too much truth. The file grows thicker with every gesture recorded. They do not see a civilian anymore. They see an operator in disguise. Not trained, but forged. Not instructed, but awakened. Your movements whisper of ancient tactics. The stillness of predators before the strike, the silence of priests before forbidden incantations, the patience of those who understand that time itself is a weapon. You carry these patterns unknowingly, and that terrifies them most of all. Because if you can move this way without orders, without conditioning, then you are not their creation. You are something older, something they cannot fully control. They lean closer to their screens as though the answer lies hidden in the curve of your mouth, the silence between your words, the refusal to explain yourself. They are not searching for what you've done. They are searching for what you are. And they know, though they'll never admit it aloud, that the greatest danger is not what you reveal, but what you've chosen to withhold. They called it forbidden because it was never meant for the ordinary. The blueprint was buried in locked drawers, whispered only in rooms without windows, carved into the margins of files stamped with red ink. Yet here it is before you, not as instruction, but as revelation. Influence is not persuasion. Influence is architecture. You are not speaking to the mind. You are rewriting its walls, altering its corridors, dimming its lights until the subject forgets where the doors once were. They will think they chose, but the path was designed long before their first step. You were taught to speak less, to move cautiously, to wait. They told you hesitation was weakness. But hesitation was a blade, sharpened in secret. You learned that silence breeds discomfort, and discomfort breeds surrender. The blueprint shows this clearly. Words are bricks, but silence is the mortar that holds them in place. Speak, and they may resist. Stay silent, and their own mind becomes your accomplice, filling the gaps with fear, doubt, or desire. This is why the Watchers became afraid of you, because you moved like someone who already understood what they had locked away. The blueprint does not begin in the room. It begins long before you arrive. Attention is currency, and you spend none of yours. While others flail for recognition, you remain still, drawing more power in absence than they gain in noise. The ancient tacticians understood this. A general who shows nothing reveals everything to himself. While the enemy reads shadows, you are already moving the light. They taught soldiers to shout orders. They taught rulers to command. But the blueprint teaches patience, because a seed planted in silence can grow into an empire of thought. Look closely and you'll see the darker layers. Betrayal is not an accident. It is engineered. Trust is a lever, designed to be pulled at the exact moment pressure fractures the soul. People believe betrayal destroys them. The truth is harsher. Betrayal only reveals the architecture that was already unstable. You do not need to strike. You only remove the illusion of stability, and the collapse takes care of itself. This is the forbidden design: destruction disguised as self-destruction, influence disguised as inevitability. Now the blueprint begins to whisper a warning. Power taken this way reshapes not only those around you, but yourself. The Watchers knew this, which is why they hid it. Every tactic that bends another mind also carves into yours. The darkness you unleash has roots that grow backwards into you. Yet you cannot look away. You cannot unknow what you now see. You hold in your hands the geometry of control, a map of fault lines in every conversation, every glance, every silence. It is not persuasion. It is not manipulation. It is the quiet rearranging of reality itself. And once you see it, you will see it everywhere. You sit in a chair that isn't a chair. It feels like stone, though no stone exists here. The walls do not breathe, yet they close in as if alive, whispering questions that have no mouths. A single light flickers overhead, not to illuminate you, but to remind you of your shadow. They are not speaking, yet the questions arrive all the same. Who are you loyal to? Why do you move the way you do? The silence between pulses of light becomes louder than thunder, and in it you hear your own voice, though twisted, interrogating, demanding answers you cannot give. You thought you were the one observing the world, watching, calculating, studying the flaws in others like fractures in glass. But here the glass turns against you. Every glance you avoided is catalogued. Every hesitation you carried like armor is dissected as evidence. They replay your life as though it were a crime scene, and suddenly you realize nothing you've done has ever gone unnoticed. The very strategies that kept you hidden are the same patterns that exposed you. The interrogation is not external. It is surgical. It cuts beneath the skin, carving into thought, peeling back layers of memory until even your silence screams. You are forced to see yourself as they see you, dangerous, unclaimed, a mind too sharp to be left wandering free. Yet beneath that terror is something stranger, a recognition. They are not wrong. You have always known your mind bends reality differently. You notice what others miss. You weaponize pause. You calculate exits while others only enter. You were never simply surviving. You were rehearsing for a war you didn't know had already begun. Their questions dig deeper, not about crimes, not about betrayals, but about essence. Do you know why you resist? Do you know why you conceal? You feel the weight of answers pressing against your ribs, answers you've never spoken aloud because you feared the sound of them. That fear becomes the battlefield. One side whispers that you are a prisoner, dissected, stripped of freedom. The other insists you are finally being revealed, shown what you always were but never admitted, a strategist in a world of pawns, a cipher in a room of open books. And so the interrogation turns. You no longer sit as the accused. You begin to question yourself with a sharper edge than they ever could. Were your choices ever yours? Or have you been moving according to patterns placed in your mind long ago, like strings tied to a marionette you cannot see? The silence that once protected you now becomes suffocating, because you know silence can no longer hide you. It can only expose you further. In this chamber without windows, you face the most dangerous truth of all: the enemy was never them. The enemy was the reflection staring back through the cracks in your own mind, demanding you choose, continue walking blind, or accept that the war you thought was outside has always lived within you. They don't bring you into a cold room with steel handcuffs. They bring you into silence, a silence so thick it feels alive, humming beneath your skin as though the walls themselves are leaning closer. There are no accusations, no threats, only eyes calculating, patient, ancient in their stillness. You expect punishment, interrogation, chains. Instead, you hear it, the offer. They don't want to stop you. They want to use you. Every gesture you thought invisible has already been mapped. Every pause in your speech, every hesitation, every concealed flicker of doubt. They've been collecting it like currency. And now they slide the ledger across the table, revealing the truth you always sensed, but never named. You are not ordinary. You are a weapon. The weight presses against you like a crown forged of iron and fire. They tell you the world runs not on laws or morals, but on pressure points, fractures in human thought that can be widened with a whisper, a silence, a glance. And you've already been practicing without knowing. They call it psychological warfare. You know it by another name, survival. What you use to wield defensively. Your quiet, your restraint, your refusal to play the shallow games of others, they see as strategic artillery. In their language, hesitation becomes manipulation, stillness becomes control, withdrawal becomes dominance. They twist your very nature into a doctrine. The temptation is unbearable because it feels like recognition. All the years of being overlooked, doubted, misunderstood, suddenly reframed as training. They tell you this was preparation, and you almost believe them. Almost. But beneath their words lies the venom. If you accept, you will not belong to yourself anymore. You will belong to the shadows. The same silence that once freed you will become your leash. The same intelligence that protected you will become their tool. You will learn to pull the strings of others, yes, but who then will pull yours? You feel the fracture open inside you. On one side, the H for validation, for proof that your strange way of seeing the world had purpose. On the other, the dread that purpose might be worse than meaninglessness. They offer you power wrapped in chains. They tell you loyalty is optional, only results matter. Yet you can hear the unspoken truth echoing in the room. Once you cross this line, there is no return. The game will not end. You will become both predator and prey, feared and studied, exalted and expendable. The air grows heavier. The silence stretches, waiting for your answer. For the first time, you realize this is not about them recruiting you. It is about them awakening something you tried to bury. And whether you nod in acceptance or walk away in refusal, the recruitment has already happened. Because now you know. Now you can never unknow. The mirror doesn't break with a sound. It fractures in silence, as if the world itself holds its breath. You stand before it, watching your reflection split into infinite shards, each piece a version of you that could have been. One shard shows the obedient recruit, stepping into their ranks with a sharp suit and hollow eyes, your voice reshaped into their weapon. Another shows you rejecting them, vanishing into shadows, unclaimed, unbound, but forever hunted. And then there are darker shards, ones you hesitate to look at, versions where you betray even yourself, trading freedom for control, identity for survival. Each fragment glitters like a blade, and you realize this is not a choice. It is a test. Your life until now has been a slow preparation for this room, this fracture, this moment where truth and illusion blur. Every silence you carried, every restraint you mastered, every time you were misunderstood, they were rehearsals. They hardened you. They trained you. The reflection staring back is not the timid figure others believed you to be. It is a strategist cloaked in flesh, a creature who learned to endure storms without breaking, who learned to see patterns where others saw chaos. The watchers see it too. That is why they offered recruitment. That is why they fear refusal. But in the split glass, you begin to see what they don't. Joining them makes you powerful, yes, but it chains you to their will. They hand you influence, but it is poisoned. Your strategy's no longer your own, your silence no longer sacred. Refusing them, however, doesn't free you either. It casts you into exile, a ghost walking the corridors of a world that will never stop hunting you. Either path reshapes you into something you cannot return from. The realization chills deeper than fear. Choice is not escape, choice is transformation. The shards hum, vibrating with the weight of decision, and you feel the edges cutting into your skin. Each cut bleeds memory, the betrayal you endured, the lies you swallowed, the nights you stared at ceilings while the world slept. These wounds were never mistakes, they were inscriptions. Ancient symbols carved into your psyche, rituals that prepared you for this battlefield of mirrors. The FBI is only one reflection. Behind them are older forces, faceless councils, empires that thrive on silence and compliance. They wait to see which shard you pick up, which version of yourself you choose to bleed for. And then you understand the truth. The mirror was never meant to be mended. It was meant to be broken. Because only in the fracture can you see the whole. Only in the splitting of yourself can you glimpse the shadow of what you've always been. Hunter and hunted, free and chained, silent and screaming. The watchers lean closer, holding their breath, but you know something they don't. Whichever shard you take, it cuts both ways. You walk forward, but the ground beneath you is no longer the same. The world that once felt stable now bends and fractures, its edges sharp with hidden truths. You know too much to return to the softness of ignorance, too little to stand fully armed against the forces watching from the dark. Silence trails behind you like a cloak. But within that silence is weight, a weight you never carried before. Every glance now feels calculated. Every word is chosen as if it could ignite or extinguish something unseen. You have crossed a threshold and nothing will ever move the same again. The offer they whispered lingers in your skull, not as a question, but as a shadow tattooed onto thought itself. Whether you said yes or no doesn't matter anymore. The moment they revealed their hand, the game shifted. They named you, studied you, marked you. And by acknowledging the mark, you became both hunter and hunted. Power is not given, it is noticed. And the moment it is noticed, it becomes dangerous. The silence you once wore to survive has become a weapon sharp enough to wound those who dare approach too close. But every weapon comes with a cost, and the cost is always blood. Your reflection no longer fits you. In the mirror, you see eyes that are yours and not yours, carrying a weight too ancient for their years. Betrayal hums at the edge of every decision. The betrayal of the old self who believed freedom meant invisibility. The betrayal of trust because those who watch will never stop. The betrayal of destiny because once the path is revealed, pretending it is not there becomes a lie too heavy to bear. You know that even rejection does not erase the choice. It only redraws it in sharper lines. There is no return to innocence. You can walk forward, step after deliberate step, and every movement will now be interpreted as strategy. Every silence is a calculation. You are not allowed to simply exist anymore. You are defined by the shadows you cast and the shadows you conceal. The watchers are patient. They are ancient. They have seen countless minds rise and fall, countless hidden flames burn too bright, then collapse into ash. Yet still you move, and still they watch. The path is forbidden not because it cannot be walked, but because once you walk it, you are rewritten. The language of survival is now carved into you like scripture. Weakness becomes camouflage, fear becomes compass, doubt becomes blade. You carry them all, and the world, though blind to its own strings, will feel the tremors of your unseen hand. You were not chosen for safety. You were noticed because you are dangerous. And in that danger lies a truth they cannot silence, no matter how tightly they close the file. Now you walk where the light fractures and the dark bends, with no map but instinct, no ally but the weight of your own awareness. Every step is exile, every step is ascension, and though the watchers remain, so too does your knowing.